Yeah, first and foremost, I like to give all honor and all glory and all praise to the Most God, Yahweh, right? Which really power, the Most High power, Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham, Rakal Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who rule well. Salutations to the Akim in the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking their lives more now than ever. To the Israelite foreigners whose phenotype may look like another nation, but your bloodline goes back to Israel. Shalom. To the sister in Akwaf, listen and learn it in silence. Shalom. This your brother Aram Yehawadath with the lesson.
Tonight, Chicago police are looking for a group of people who attacked and killed a man in Humboldt Park shortly after the Puerto Rican Day Parade on Saturday.
His friends say he grew up in the neighborhood but moved because it turned too violent. WGN's Patrick Elwood now live with the latest tonight. Pat?
Terrible, cruel irony there, Ray. Good evening to you, Lourdes, as well. CPD treating this, no doubt about it, with the highest priority, saying they do have some good intel, some good tips, and the mayor weighing in on this tonight as well, saying those who are responsible will be hunted down. The signs read, "Rest in peace," and "You are a beautiful soul, taken too soon." Part of a bigger display of remembrance for Giovanni Arzuaga, killed Saturday night. Sean knew him well.
This was my homie. He was more than just a friend. I looked at him as like a big brother.
City cameras capturing the crime that started with a minor traffic accident. The car, Arzuaga and his companion and mother of their two children, is rushed by a group who then proceed to pull her out from behind the wheel. Things quickly go from bad to worse. And while detectives were back in the neighborhood tonight, their boss, Chief of Detectives, Brendan Denahan, described the chain of events earlier today.
They are seen hitting and beating the woman who's the driver of the vehicle and then eventually dragging her out. What the video doesn't show is there was a shot discharged at some point, and you can't see it in the video, and it appears when the female gets struck, and then the male comes out, and he's almost on top of her, and then you see that second suspect clearly just holding a gun, shooting him in the head, almost execution style.
The ambush takes place at the intersection of Division and Spalding, and only hours after the Puerto Rican Day Parade, held in the same area. The mayor today calling what happened horrific.
It wasn't just one person, but there were others who were standing by, who dragged that poor woman out of the car. The individual, the man who was killed, literally used his body as a shield, and he paid for that with his life. It's a horrific statement. It's a horrific statement about those men who are involved in that. I don't believe that they are typical by any stretch of young black men in the city, but it's horrific nonetheless.
Late this afternoon, a high school friend came to pay tribute to Giovanni. Sean says he had moved out of this neighborhood to escape the violence and just came back to visit Saturday night.
And he was just a real nice dude. Like, we even lived next to each other. You wouldn't expect this to happen to him, especially living out in Schaumburg area.
Is that where he's from?
Yeah, no, he's from over here. His parents live over here, but we all moved back that way to, have a better life.
Moved back there, came back there to visit, moved to Schaumburg for a better life, Sean says. The 25-year-old companion who was with him last listed in critical condition. We're live at the police station at Belmont and Western. Patrick Elwood, WGN News, Lourdes and Ray, back to you.
Yeah, this is Amos 5:21. I hate, right? This is the Most High. Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai. Ba'asham Rakal Kadash, letting you know that he hate. So the Lord does hate, right? I despise, right? Despise is another form of another word to say hate, or it's intense hate. Your feast days, right? Because you come up with these feast days, these days that to say that you're Puerto Rican, that you want to have pride in being called a Puerto Riches, something that the conquistador did as they conquered you and was taking your gold and your silver out of your land and then leaving you with the name Puerto Riches, or Puerto Rican, and you're poor, the so-called self-proclaimed white man, which is Esau Edom, is still ruling over you. You really have nothing to be proud of, right? So-called Jamaicans do this. They have, all these different parades, but that thing actually goes back to Bacchus. And I will not smell in your solemn assemblies, right? Because these are things that Israel used to do, but when we used to celebrate, we used to do it unto the Lord, and you wouldn't be out there wilding out trying to kill or be half naked, dancing and doing all sorts of gyrating and these type of things. Why? Because we was there to celebrate the Lord. And there was order in the way we celebrated. We drank, had a little fun and, a little alcohol, whatever, but you didn't go into all these type of things, right? And the news is trying to say they're just black, but that was a Puerto Rican Day parade. There's a lot of dark-skinned Puerto Ricans that look black, or so-called, Yeah, this is Isaiah chapter 1, verse 14. Your new moons and your appointed feasts, right? Because you appoint these feasts to yourself, these Juneteenths and the Puerto Rican Day parades and these pride parades that you want to go and join, which really you're serving and worshiping another god when you do this. Basically Bacchus, right? Which is a deity that goes back to ancient Greece and Rome, right? And America is modern day Rome and Greece, right? So the Lord said, your new moons and your appointed feasts, my soul hateth, right? The Lord hateth, just like I said, the Lord hates, man. And he hates when you go out there partying, calling yourself a proverb and a byword, which is Puerto Rican or Jamaican or Native American or black, right? Those are proverbs and those are bywords. Those are not Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Reuben. Those are not the names that the Lord had given you, right? These are the self-proclaimed so-called white man. Put these proverbs and these bywords on you, and you're taking pride in these things. So the Lord hates it. They are trouble unto me. I am weary to bear them, right? Because the Lord don't like you doing that. And when ye spread forth your hands, right? Because you want to go to church or you want to go to these different things, or in the midst that you're doing these things when you're worshiping Bacchus, these other deities, someone comes and kill you, you want to cry out, oh God, please Lord save me, right? So when you spread forth your hand, I will hide my eyes from you. When ye make many prayers, right? Now some niggas killing you, right? Because you want to go out here and gyrate and do all these different things, worshiping other gods, putting on proverbs and bywords, and then having pride in it. And pride goes before the fall, right? I will not hear you. Your hands are full of blood, right? Because all you so-called black, Hispanic, and Native Indian do is kill each other. The self-proclaimed white man, Esau Edom, is ruling over you. And he's showing you that he's ruling over you. Right? The police is shooting you down on camera and getting away with it. You got a few incidents where the guy, for Floyd, he's supposed to have got some years. But so what? What about the overall thing that these devils have never been punished for taking an entire country? They have never been punished for taking an entire people. They have never been punished for taking a whole heap of land from Mexico and claiming it for themselves and killing a lot of so-called Mexicans, which is the tribe of Issachar, which those are Israelites. The Gadites, who they call Native American, are Israelites. The so-called black man, Benjamin, Judah, and Levi are Israelites. And they put their hands on the Most High's people, right? So you can't not let that go. But what? You guys want to have blood upon your hands against your own people and not have any regards. Yeah. So this is Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 20. What purpose cometh there to me incense from Sheba? Right? I mean, and the sweet cane from a far country, right? Your burnt offerings are not acceptable, nor your sacrifice sweet unto me, right? You know, when you go to these, basically, like I said, you're basically worshiping Bacchus, or when you go to these so-called churches, you worshiping other gods, other deities. So it serves the Most High no purpose. You know what I mean? Nor you, because the Lord's not going to hear that. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, behold, which means feast your eyes upon, pay attention, I will lay a stumbling block, since you want to be, Proverbs by words. You want to be a Puerto Rican? Okay, go ahead and be a Puerto Rican. You want to be a Jamaican? You want to be black? You want to be a Native American? Instead of being the God-given names the Most High Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai is giving you? Okay, go ahead. We'll lay that stumbling. You want to ride down the street with parades and all this other stuff and be in places, obviously, like the brother had moved from that place, so he knew it wasn't a place to be. Why would you even go back? Even to visit. Send an Uber to whoever you want and have them come visit you. You knew you're not supposed to be in that neighborhood. But ultimately, everything is of the Most High, so it was judgment. It was time for him to go. Yeah. So the Lord said he's going to lay a stumbling block before these people. Who? The so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian, right? Who are meant to be Israelites, but now there's a stumbling block for you. Now you're calling yourself every name but a child of God, right? And the fathers, right? So your fathers before you was calling themselves Black, Puerto Rican, Mexican, Native American, right? And their sons together shall fall, right? Because all this is really leading you to your destruction. You're going to just fall, calling yourself Puerto Rican, doing these parades, doing all these different things. Fall upon them, the neighbors, right? And the friends, right? Because those are all your neighbors, right? Because your neighbors actually go back to Israelites, other Israelites, right? Shall perish, right? And all of you going to perish one way or another, right? Thus saith Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakal Kodash, behold, a people from the north country, right, which is talking about Babylon, but you're in spiritual Babylon, which is in the north country, right, which is America. A great nation shall rise up from the sides of the earth, right? And ultimately they did. When you go back to Deuteronomy 28:68, a nation should come against thee from far, as swift as the eagle, right? Spain came. Spain has the eagle. France has an eagle. England had an eagle. Portugal, all these different places represent the eagle because it goes back to the Edomites, right? You know. So they shall lay hold the bow and the spear. They are cruel, right? Which goes into being a peasant. But not only are they a peasant, going back to the Bowers, right, the Edomites, but they're also poor in spirit, right? They're not human, right? That's why it says what? And have no mercy, right? Because only a person who's not human or poor with spirit or morals, they're not gonna have any mercy. Their voices roareth like the sea, right? Which means it's gonna be a lot of people, many people, lots of people, and they, right, which is coming. The Lord says, the Lord, this sharpening the sword, right? Because this thing, you're never going back to normal. And they're going to use this thing you out there at the parade as a reason, saying that this thing has to go on another lockdown, right? So when you go back on lockdown, they're coming with the sword. They're going to come roaring as a lion, and they riding upon horses, set in array as men for war, right? And that's really what they're coming. They're gonna come again because you're going to go into another lockdown, and a serious lockdown against the old daughter of Zion, right? Which is you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian. You're the daughters of Zion. You're meant to not be a proverb and a byword. Black, Hispanic, Native Indian, Puerto Rican, Cuban. Those are proverbs, there's bywords, right? What is it, Mexican? Man, people hold pride in nonsense. Just Wikipedia, Bacchus, ancient Roman deity of wine, right? Because we're in the second leg of Rome, right? Which is America, spiritually Rome, spiritually Sodom, spiritually Egypt, right? Spiritually Nineveh, right? Right. Bacchus was a Roman god of agriculture, right? And being that you're in the second leg of Rome, right? They've carried their things over, right? All that partying, all that raving, parades, whether it's you thinking you're a Puerto Rican, right? Because that's a false concept to be known as a Puerto Rican, or you so-called Jamaicans, right? Partying in the streets, right? Because that goes back to Bacchus, and I'm gonna show you that all that partying, and the Lord is not pleased with that, right? Right? You're called a Puerto Riches, being a Puerto Rican, and you're in poverty, killing each other. You're called a Jamaican, which means a land of wood and water, right? So but you guys want to party, it says agriculture of wine, fertility, equivalent to the Greek god Dionysus, right? Which, like I said, the Roman Greco Empire, which is spiritually what America now. Dionysus was said to be the last god to join the 12 Olympus, supposedly Estes, Hestia gave up her seat for him. His plants were vines and twirling ivory, right? He carried pine cone topped staff, right? And his followers were goat feet. Wow, that is crazy. The striders and Medeas, wild women who danced energetically during these fests. Bacchus is the son of Jupiter. So when you have these festivals and women are dancing down the street, this is basically who you're worshiping. I think they have one like this in Canada too, right? One of those parades and the women are dancing, they walking down the street. I think they have it in Brazil. But this is who, because you guys are the Israelites, and the Lord is not pleased with you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians doing these type of things, right? Right? Instead of calling yourself a Puerto Rican, you should be calling yourself a Ephraimite, right? Instead of calling yourself a Jamaican, you should be calling yourself a Benjamin, Bum Yum Yum, right? You know, instead of being out there in Brazil and some of these other places that you guys be doing the thing, you know, Asher, Gad, you know what I mean, Manasseh, you know what I mean, Naphtali. These are things that you should be calling yourself, but instead you're in gross darkness and you're serving this God right here, this effeminate God. You know what I mean? It says this is 2 Maccabees chapter 6 verse 6. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days, right? So in America, it's a miseducation, and purposely they confuse you, right? The city of confusion. The Sabbath, it's Saturday, it's Friday, it's Friday, oh, it's Sunday, and then they have these so-called denominations argue about which day is the actual Sabbath day, which all of them are incorrect, right? It's just miseducation or misdirection, right, that they have you in, right? Because it deals with the new moon, right? Or ancient feast days, which is what you should have been doing, and not out there, doing this parade and dancing and being proud in something that doesn't profit you, right? To call yourself a proverb and a byword, to be Puerto Rican, right? Or to profess himself at all to being a Jew, right? Which is an Israelite, right? So you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, you willingly, because they had at this time they passed laws so you couldn't confess. You willingly won't confess that yourself to be an Israelite. You willingly confess yourself not to be a Jew, right? You willingly don't want to be a part of the Commonwealth of Israel, man, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That you are the descendants that is meant to inherit the kingdom of heaven. And in the day of the king's birth, every month they were brought to bitter constraints. Bitter. This is bitterness to you, right? Being here in America, and that's what America is called. The America means bitter, man. Right? But you're trying to turn something bitter and trying to make it sweet. You know what I mean? To eat the sacrifices, and it should be bitter for you to eat the pork, the shrimp, the crab, the lobster, and all these different things. Trying to make these things a delicacy of something that's actually a bottom feeder. You know what I mean? You know, being in the ghettos, the vadios, the reservation, that thing's bottom, man. And when the feast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled, which means forced, to go in possession to Bacchus carrying ivy. So let's look up that word.
Procession.
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 Right? A number of people or vehicles moving forward in an orderly fashion, especially as part of a ceremony. And what's a ceremony? Ceremony is a religious experience or a religious thing, worshiping something, right? So that's what you're doing. You're going down this road, dancing and doing all this other stuff, and you're worshiping Bacchus. You're worshiping another deity, which you're breaking the first commandment, have no other God before me, saith Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, right? Or festival, right? Which that's what you're doing. It's a festival, right? A parade, a march, which is basically what you're doing, right? I mean, so Kahaloyim Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak Wadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, salutations to the Akim and the four winds preaching in truth and sincerity, you know, reaching the elect, Lord willing, you know what I'm saying? Shamar Patat, to the Israelite foreigners who phenotype may look like another nation, who bloodline goes back to Israel, right? Shalom and repent, come back, and you know, and you sister in the Akwaf that's listed in learning, death to America.